Today, I'm joined by Jean Guzman, DFS Quality Director, and Matthias Martinsen, DFS Senior Director of Hardware Engineering, as we examine a critical principle that underpins performance across the entire fuel supply chain. Not all equipment is created equal. Because in this industry, cutting corners doesn't just cost money, it can cost trust. Hi, Jean. Hi, Matthias. Thank you both for joining me today.
Hello.
Hello.
I'm sure this is going to be a very important and interesting topic for our listeners today, so I'm eager to get things started. From an engineering perspective, what are the key differences between low cost and premium equipment that operators may not immediately see?
I think it is meeting the assumed and unexpected quality levels. It exceeds the bare minimum quality level or design levels. This is especially important for lifetime applications and durability of components in our product. Low-cost equipment often tend to have less lifetime and durability as not designed or tested for a more harsh environment or the entire lifetime, which is, yeah, you're cutting corners basically.
Yes. And are there specific components or materials where this difference is most critical?
I think the most critical is, of course, dynamic moving parts and external surfaces that interfaces with customer interaction. Good example here is, I think, as simple as a button. We normally have or offer option with regards to having capacity buttons for customer interaction, while our competitors might go with the cheaper option and just have membrane keypads. And of course, if you have a capacity button as we do with regards to hardened glass, that is virtually impossible to wear down and will live for a lifetime. However, the mechanics with the membrane button wears down very quickly, and even a push button also, even if it is a simple spring, also wears down eventually.
Mhm.
Um, and we also use, as an example, the same glass to protect our displays, and this is a hardened glass that also supersedes to a very high extent if you use, as an example, plexiglass. We all have seen plexiglass around our normal lifetime or life, where you see that it can maybe get yellow or wear down or be impacted by sun exposure, etc. Which, of course, change the perception of products during its lifetime.
Yeah, so definitely quite a few components there to name.
And I think there is also like, all the cladding of the dispenser. I mean, I know like you might look at it as only cosmetic, but there is also like the structure of the dispenser in terms of like corrosion resistance, how long it will last. Even just maybe like the thickness of it. The thinner you go, like the more risk of like vibration you have. Um, Looking at a brand new dispenser, like low cost and a higher cost one, like they might look the same coming out of the factory, then like wait maybe like 5 years in the field and they will look like totally different. As Matthias said, like plexiglass with a UV like will turn yellow. The cladding might start to corrode and to look like a dispenser has maybe been like 30 years in the field, but it's just been 5 years. So it's thickness of paint, that type of thing, type of material will make a huge difference over the lifetime of the dispenser.
That's super interesting. Something I didn't even realize. So that's really insightful. Um, Jean, can you explain the concept of total cost of ownership and why it's more relevant than upfront capital costs?
Well, the product we sell, obviously we sell them for a certain lifetime. It will all depend of like where they're installed, how they're maintained, on all that they are used, but we can probably say in between like 10 to 15 years. So obviously, like at first, we're looking at the cost of the investment to buy like, brand new dispenser for forecourt. It seems to be like, the bigger cost. However, you have to consider of like what that dispenser is going to cost you over the lifetime. I mean, the first thing probably to think about is, so we sell our dispensers, at least in Europe, so they are what you call like MID certified, so ready to be installed, like plug and play. They just need to be like placed on the ground, and they're ready for like the first commercial use. Which is not the case for like every single dispenser, which meant that your first cost actually at installation could be that you actually need to go and calibrate them and to pay for like weight and measure locally. And then it's about like reliability of the component. So how often will you have to change, I don't know, a meter, a pump, a valve, maybe like the belt that's driving the pump. So there is a cost of the material. There's also the cost of the intervention. So how many times you'll have to have like a service technician on the forecourt. That's obviously a cost. You need to pay for labor, for the travel. And also like, the cost to your operation. So if you have a pump on your forecourt that's constantly like off, you are losing sales. Maybe people who like usually turn up on the forecourt after a few times, they say like, well, those pumps, they never work, so I better go somewhere else to like refill my car. So you will lose customer. So actually, like more than the initial cost of purchasing the equipment, it's more the cost over those 10 or 15 years of like part service, maintenance, weight and measure, and like losing business. That is the most important.
Yes, certainly. And do you have a simple framework or method for evaluating total cost of ownership?
Well, you need to consider like reliability of the equipment. You need to consider like the accuracy of the meter. So how often will you have to like recalibrate them? That has a cost every time you need to do it. You need to consider the cost of the part and availability of the part. Like for our dispenser, we guarantee at least 10 years of the spare part being available. If you buy something and in 5 years' time, like there is no spare part, then it's the cost of buying a brand new dispenser because you cannot fix it that you have to consider. And something I didn't mention also is the accuracy of the meter, and I know we'll get it like later, but that is also a significant cost. If you have a meter that's constantly drifting and you're giving more fuel than what you actually selling, then that's a major impact. You really need to consider like all those things and make your calculation to see that, I mean, probably like the cost of maintaining it is more important than the cost of the initial investment.
Yeah, no, 100%. And how do variations in material quality and manufacturing standards impact durability and safety over time?
I think that one I like to use like the example of the paint, and the reason for it is because we have developed quite some good insight and knowledge on that. But as I was saying, like you look at like two different brands, I don't know, white dispenser, they look exactly the same. There is probably like three things to consider in terms of like the material quality and manufacturing standard when we're speaking about like painting and corrosion resistance. There is a type of material that we use, and how good that material is and how it will like behave over time. There is a type of paint that you use, and it's not just for what we use. It's not just any like white paint. Actually, like what we use, you cannot find it on the shelf. It's special paints for every color that we have developed over time, trying to balance few different things. Let's say the two main things are resistance to fuel. So, we sell to 160 different countries. There is all sorts of different type of fuels, additives, and the paint needs to sustain the aggression of like time and that type of chemicals being like sprayed on the paint. So we don't want the paint to peel. We don't want it to lose its color. We also, when we have a brand new dispenser that leave the factory, it's all nice and there is no bump and anything, but you put it on the forecourt. First thing that's going to happen, someone is going to open the door of their car and going to put a dent in the cladding of the dispenser. You need the paint to be flexible enough to kind of like follow the damage on the cladding, so it doesn't crack and doesn't create an entry point for corrosion. And then the last point about the manufacturing is you could have the best type of material, you could have the best paint. If the way you apply it is wrong, it's not going to work because it's going to come off. So it's about like how you control your process for the application of the paint, and how do you ensure it's repeatable, and that's the mix is going to work. So to answer the question, if we take the example of the paint, that's my answer.
Yeah, so it sounds like there needs to be a balance between the quality and the process. Mm-hmm. Both are very important, which makes sense. Are there cases where cheaper equipment leads or has led to non-compliance?
Yeah, I think so. Taking an very easy example with regards to if you do not use high quality seals, that eventually will then cause a leakage, and if you have a leakage, it normally equals non-conformity because you have hazardous liquids leaking out, which can absolutely cause hazardous cases. And I think it also ultimately it comes down to good engineering practice. High quality product is often designed to meet and exceed expectations, and also having a little bit fallback on safety levels. We normally always design with regards to the aspect that we should always have a safety backup with regards to if there is something failure. We never design just to pass the module requirements with the regulatory requirements. And by that, even if you have something that fails, as an example, a seal, the product should still operate in a safe way to try to preempt those kind of failure.
And Matthias, how often do regulations evolve, and how can operators future-proof their investment?
So safety standards like ATEX and UL normally do not change through time. They are very stable. We have been in the business for 100+ years, and the standards, if there are revisions, it's very minor updates. I think the important is that the manufacturers actually evolve with the products to always strive to have a more safe product in each release, and have it incorporated in their DNA that everything that we do should be safe as a first priority.
Mm-hmm. And if you take, for example, the example of Matthias is speaking about the seals and the different components being ready for the future. If you take like HVO, for example, if we take our dispensers, they're ready for HVO. You don't need to, change the seals or change the components or whatever. We don't know what future fuels will be, but when you've designed something that is already ready for fuels from many different countries and already taken that approach of one more step or always build it or design it for over the safety limit, then you kind of already future proof your dispenser for any change in regulation.
It just shows the importance of being that one step ahead, right? And ahead of that regulation, as you said, John.
And I also think it shows the strength of being a global company as us, because we take in lessons from the entire world of complexity, and we always design our global components for the worst case scenarios, which basically everybody that has less exposed environment or market is getting it for free. So if there is evolution in the market, with example of biodiesel, where we then have already designed for that, because there is a certain requirement in some markets. Everybody else get this basically for free.
Yeah.
Yes. And what role does accurate measurement and calibration play in overall operational efficiency and loss prevention?
I think it is as simple as every calibration costs money for the operators. And even though there is a very small deviation, if you start counting number of meters and nozzles and through time, that starts to accumulate very quickly.
Yeah. I think if you make like a quick calculation, you consider say like a site with like 4 dispensers, 6 nozzles per dispenser. I mean, let's say like a busy site. So we're going to make a few assumptions, but just a deviation of like 0.1%. You'll be speaking over a year of maybe like 1,000 liter that you would lose in the case we're over dispensing by like 0.1%. You will be close with like 2 days cost of fuel that's increasing to like probably like something around like 50,000 euros per year, and that's just 0.1% for like 4 dispenser. So I mean, the cost can increase like really quickly, and then you have the risk of going the other way around, where you're dispensing less than what the customer is paying, and then that's your reputation, and that can be really damaging if that's something that becomes like public or unknown. That there was an issue on a meter or on a dispenser. So yeah.
Yeah, that would be a massive loss for the business, 100%. Yeah. And John, for operators facing budget constraints, how should they prioritize spending to balance cost with performance and reliability?
I think it needs to be around, I mean, safety first. You should like never ever like deviate from that. I think sometimes we tend to forget that when we're dealing with like dangerous fuel, and I mean things can happen and can have like consequence. So safety first. Then I would say like anything to do with the hydraulics, so a reliable pumping unit, a meter that doesn't drift over time. I mean, we've had a few questions and we've spoken about that, but I mean that's like super critical. And then, yeah, we know depending of the country that like cosmetic and maybe resistance to corrosion will have like a different level of importance. I mean, obviously, like where you install your dispenser, like will also drive like how much you need to be worried about corrosion or not. But yeah, I would say like safety, hydraulics, then followed by the cosmetic of the dispenser.
Matthias, anything from your side?
No, I fully agree. I mean, safety always comes first, as
Yes.
I mentioned, and ultimately, I don't think customers should be have the requirement to prioritize. If you do go to a high-end manufacturer and with quality in mind, I mean, you basically get everything for that amount of money.
And I think there is, I'm thinking out loud here. It's probably like one more thing that's probably becoming more and more critical. So cost of fuel increasing. I think the risk of fraud is also becoming like more and more present. So to have also like we say like secured electronic, so that it cannot be tampered with. I think is becoming like more and more of a reality. And again, I think we're well equipped in that sector with our equipment in terms of the electronic and the calculator.
Yeah, that is definitely a topical issue that a lot of people are speaking about right now. Last but not least, if you had one piece of advice for retailers or operators making site or equipment investments, what would that be? Matthias, I'll go to you first, if you don't mind.
A simple answer to that is you get what you pay for, is my answer to that. And And the advice is to do the math and take in all in the equation when you do the investment. So you don't basically just focus on cost on the investment time and lose then with regards to all the cost that is added later through the lifetime. Yeah, that would be my advice.
Thank you. And John?
I think I have to agree with Matthias, but also, like, to try to understand what's just behind like the dispenser. And I think like, our team and sales team are well equipped with that to also explain like, what makes the difference in terms of our equipment compared to others. I guess if you just look at the quote, like it might look the same with dispensers with a display and 6 nozzles and 3 pumping units and 3 meters on the paper, like ourselves to a competitor, it's probably going to look the same, and at the bottom the price might be different. But it's important to understand why, and what we've explained like throughout the short video here, like does really summarize like why it's important that just just looking at the initial cost of a dispenser is not what it's all about. It's more about like how it's going to perform like throughout the years and through the life of the dispenser.
That is really great advice, and I'm sure something our listeners found very useful. I want to thank you both, Jean and Matthias, for your valuable time and insights. But I would also like to extend a special thank you to everyone who attended this session. If you do have any questions for our experts, please drop them in the comments and we'll review and respond as soon as we can. Finally, if you want to explore our products and solutions, we encourage you to visit our website. Simply scan the QR code on the screen or go directly to doverfuelingsolutions.com. Thank you both, and until next time.
Thank you.